My earliest childhood memory would have to be of me running around the table playing with my little sister. I am the oldest, I should say. I'm the oldest of four. So me and my sister that's right under me, we're running around the table in Germany where we grew up and lived for 13 years. And she fell and tripped and bust her lip open. And she always would trip and bust her lip open in the same spot. And I think that's like I had to be probably around 4 or 5 years old. I was playing cops and robbers with a little boy. And we had hardwood floors also in Germany. And I was the cop, my tricycle. And I was chasing him, and I slipped and I fell and I hit my head on the corner of the wall, and I had to get stitches. And I remember riding in the back of our brown Chevette with a rag over my head, and blood was pouring down my eyes. And I remember being at the hospital and hearing my mother walking up and down the hallways, crying and praying and crying and praying. And I remember her stopping and looking at me. And I remember the doctor just talking to me, and we were talking and talking and talking. And later on, she told me that she was crying and praying and worrying. And then she stopped because I wasn't crying. And he was just stitching my head up. And I ended up getting like 12 stitches or something. And I still have, you may not be able to see it because of makeup, but I still have the scar to this day on my forehead that I wear proudly. So those are some of my early happy, well, not really happy, but less traumatic childhood memories. My childhood memories are not very good. Being raised in Germany, we would come and visit. My father would get leave to come here for 30 days at a time. When his father died, we came here real quickly. But when I was 6 years old, we came and stayed for 30 days. And during that time, I was raped by my cousin. And from that time on, I was never the same. My grandmother's house was, to me, the safest place on earth. She sent me across the street to go check on her sister. I went over there to check on her and take some food, and her son was there. And when I was getting ready to leave because she was asleep, he had me come into the room to watch cartoons with him, and he began to tickle me. And to this day, I cannot stand to be tickled. And the tickling went from tickling to the inside of my thighs, to my socks coming off, to my pants and panties coming off, to me being raped. And if I was 6, he was 16. And the pain was unbearable. And I remember going back over to my grandmother's house, and I remember taking a bath, and I remember the blood, and I remember the pain, and I remember trying to wash. And I remember my grandmother looking at me in the bath and looking at the blood. And she grabbed me up and she said, "What happened to you, child?" It was a mixture of anger and fear and guilt and worry. I'd never seen my grandmother cry. I'd never seen her break. I'd never seen her be anything but strong. But the way she shook me, it made me feel like I was in trouble. And she really didn't want an answer, because she asked me what happened, but then before I could even answer her, she says to me, "Don't you ever go back over there again. Don't you ever go back over there alone again." I later heard her talking to my parents. Couldn't understand everything they said, But nobody, my mother, my father, grandmother, nobody ever asked me what happened. Nobody ever asked me if I was okay. Nobody asked me anything. And years later, when I asked my mother about it, she said that I didn't look like a rape victim. And then my thing was, how does someone supposed to look? And so that caused me to be very angry. And then we went back to Germany, and I was different. I come from a very religious background. And so when you have been molested or raped, your private areas become awake. And so you have a 6, 7, 8-year-old girl laying in a bed, now having orgasms, not knowing what it is, thinking that there is a demon in her vagina, and having no one to speak to, having no idea what's happening to her body, and it not being her fault at all. No one understands. Her mother and father felt like she was fast, but no one ever took the time to wonder why Myra was so fast, or why Myra had so many boys around. No one ever asked her. No one ever had the conversation, why is my child this way? Even though they knew. And so that was always an issue with me. Me and my parents have always been estranged. I am a woman who is very strong. I grew up in a home where the wife must be submissive and the husband is king. And the Bible says, wife, submit to your husband. And so that was that dominance thing. And so I feel like we're both, man and woman are both grown, and the wife should have something to say. And I said I would never be that kind of woman. And so watching my mother be that kind of woman made me resent her when I felt like she was not being treated right. And so that whole kind of thing made me bring that into all of my marriages and all of my relationships. And so I apologize to all of my mates, because they have had a really hard time with me, because I am such a fighter on things that a lot of times I don't have to fight about. Sometimes I feel like I need to crawl up in somebody's lap and be held. I feel like I never got to be that child. I feel like my childhood was stolen from me. So sometimes I still feel like I want to be that baby Myra. I want to be that teenager that I didn't get to be, because I had to raise my siblings, because my mom mentally stepped out for a while. I had never seen love my whole life. I saw dominance. I saw obedience, but I never saw kindness. And then I got married. I got my marriage license the day on my birthday, and got married a week later at 18. Stayed married 10 years until he died on Mother's Day. He also taught me everything I know about music. He created Myra Smith, the singer. He raised me, because I was a little girl when he married me. I didn't become a woman until I was 25. I'm very grateful for him, because he also saved me from the mess I was living in. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't get the chance to get out of that. And then he died in my arms, on my lap, looking at me. And I saw his eyes looking at me, and I was looking at him, and I saw his eyes go dead and turn to gray. So I was the last person he saw before he left this world. I will always be Myra Smith for him, because I will do for him. Even when I opened for the Jazz Festival, and the Coliseum was empty, and I walked the Coliseum around and around and around, and I kept saying, I'm doing this for you. It's me and you. I have 4 lives. I have the life, I have my childhood, the life of my time with my husband, my life with Tiffany Wright and the Myra Smith Experience Band, which was like the best time of my life so far. Just that band family is an amazing thing. I'm on my 4th life, and it is very, very scary for me. I never thought I'd have to have this many lives ever. This is a very scary time. I feel more alone than I ever have before. And I hate to be alone, but I do feel stronger than I ever have before, because I never thought that I could do some of the things that I have done alone. I thought that I had to have family. I thought that I had to make these things and be with these, have people or have certain people with me in order to make it. And so I'm realizing that I am good enough. I am strong enough, even though I still struggle with low self-worth, low self-esteem. I'm the biggest girl in the room, and I still have to convince myself and tell myself that you gotta walk in the room with your head held high. And if they're gonna look at you, they're gonna look at you anyway, because you're the biggest girl in the room. Give them something to look at. So I do. I don't do things for myself, just for myself. I do things because I want to help everybody. Just like this documentary. It's not just for me. I know that I'm not the only one that struggles. I know that I'm not the only one that has been hurt. I believe that these horrible things that I have encountered, and this is just a little snippet of the things, we suffer not in vain. If my face is not done, I don't feel like Myra Smith, the superstar. It's like a mask, I guess. It's my superpower mask, I guess. And I need to get to the point where if my face isn't done, I can still do it. But I'm still getting there. I deal with depression. I have PTSD. I've been raped more than once. I suffer. I've tried to kill myself twice. I suffer. But I push. I push because every day that I tell myself, or I think that it's too much, and I'd rather sleep forever than go through the things that I have to go through that nobody knows about. I remember all the people that are waiting on me to do things, or that are connected to me, or that need me. And I feel them. I literally feel the weight of the people that need me. I'm not here for me. And in the end, I hope that my life will not have been in vain, and that all the bad that I've done will not have been in vain, and that it will be forgiven for all the good that I try to do in the world.